Hey Icon Youth, this is this month's Connect Notes, and this month of November we're looking at Encounter. And here's why we're doing that. Part of the reason we're doing that is because on Friday the 29th of November, the last Friday of this month, we have Hillsong Youth and Young Adults coming to bring their Encounter tour here. And it's going to be an amazing time together. And I just want to encourage you, one, you have to be here. And two, you need to bring all your friends. It's going to be the best night. You need to bring everybody you know, because we're going to have the biggest party here. But we're talking about Encounter. And the whole reason we're talking about Encounter this month is because we want you to encounter what we've encountered as leaders or as followers of Jesus. We want you to encounter what God has got for you. And so many of us have encounters with many different things. We can have encounters with other people, moments with other people. I remember growing up, and before I was about 10 years of age, I didn't really follow a football team. I followed Alan Shearer. Alan Shearer was my hero. He's now a pundit on Match of the Day, but he is the all-time leading goal scorer in the Premier League. And I followed Alan Shearer. He was playing for Blackburn Rovers at this point. And I thought, if I could meet Alan Shearer, that's it. That encounter would completely change my life. Well, I was at one of the games, and before the game, the players drive into the car park, and there are the fans waiting to meet their heroes. And there was me with my dad, and we were waiting. I got my autograph book ready because, we didn't have phones, and it wasn't selfies, and you couldn't just have a camera photo. It was like a quick thing, so it was like, we're going to have autographs. Anyway, we're there waiting, and Alan Shearer drives in, and the crowd just begins to swarm around his car. He gets out of his car and there's this big crowd, and I'm trying to see, is there a way through? Can I get a way through to meet my hero, Alan Shearer? It's going to change my life. This moment of encounter is going to completely transform my life. And so I decided, look, I was a little bit, smaller than I am today. I was about 9 years of age. I crawled through people's legs. I went through little gaps, and I ended up and I popped up through someone's legs right in front of Alan Shearer and went, "Can I have your autograph, please?" Anyway, he gave me his autograph, and, and that was it. I went back and I got this autograph, and it was the best thing ever, but it didn't change my life. It didn't change my life at all. But here's the incredible thing is that actually, though that encounter might have left me feeling, like I didn't get what I thought I was going to get, an encounter with Jesus never leaves us feeling like that. But there's some things that we have to do to encounter Jesus. The story that we're going to look at today is of a guy called blind Bartimaeus. Actually, he's been shunned out of society, and he's been pushed out of society because we know him as blind Bartimaeus, which basically just means he's the blind son of Timaeus. That's what it means. In the physical language, he's the blind son of Timaeus. He's been pushed out. But he hears that Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus is walking by. And when he hears that Jesus is walking by, something flips. Because something happens in him that all of a sudden he begins to shout Jesus' name, and he begins to shout this phrase, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." And that had some cultural context to those days, but he was shouting so loud that actually people were telling him to shut up. Just be quiet. Jesus wants nothing to do with you, like blind son of Timaeus. He wants, because that's the way culture had been. But this guy, this Bartimaeus, this guy was willing to just keep shouting, and he was willing to stay hungry. You see, his natural was that he was blind. But he was like, I'm so hungry to not stay in the normal or natural. I wonder for you, what an encounter with Jesus, what does that look like? What does that look like for you? But here's the thing, you have to stay hungry for it. You've got to stay hungry for it. You see, you may come to youth, you may come to church, you may come into this environment, and it might be like, oh no, it's the normal or natural, but you've got to stay in a place of hunger that actually I'm going to get out of the normal and natural, and that this is not normal and natural for me, but that God has more for me. And the way that that comes about is through an encounter with him. And so Bartimaeus gets this, and he's screaming at the top of his lungs, I want this encounter. Jesus, Jesus, I need you in my life. You see, the Holy Spirit would love to break us out of routine into hunger, because it's those that hunger and thirst for the things of God, they'll receive those things. It's those that hunger and thirst for an encounter that receive an encounter. But if we're just on the back foot and we don't hunger and thirst for it, if we don't go after it, God will give us what we want. You see, here's the beauty about God. God will lead us, and God will let us encounter him at the level we want. If we just want surface level, if we just want to stay at the surface, that's where it'll be. But if we hunger and we come in worship, and we come when the word of God is preached, and we come in those moments and we give everything, God will encounter us to the level that we're hungry. See, I want to encourage us. We love to have a load of fun in youth when we praise, and we love to go crazy. But I also want to encourage you that actually in those moments, that's dictating, here's the level I'm going for. Here's the hunger. You know, the way I'm singing these words out, the way I'm going crazy, the way I'm lifting my hands, the way I'm worshiping, that's a sign of how hungry am I for what God can do. Am I just going to stay in the natural or the normal, or will I hunger for more? You see, Bartimaeus got this and began to shout. He stayed hungry, and he was willing not to be silent. You see, he was not silent because he was shouting out, but there's another great story. It's a woman who's had this issue in her life for many, many years. And here's what she does. She pushes through a crowd. And she has this thought, if I can just touch his garment, if I can just touch Jesus's coat, I'll be healed. It's the level of encounter, because she believes that actually I've got to do something out of the normal. But she had to push through a crowd. She had to get through a crowd to Jesus. This crowd was cramming all around. You can read the story. It was all around them, but she had to push through the crowd. I don't know, maybe you don't have to push through a physical crowd, but maybe there's mental crowds. What will people think? The anxiety, the fear. What will happen? No, I'm going to push through these things. What's gone on this week? No, I'm going to push through these things. Why? Because an encounter with Jesus will completely transform my life. It'll completely. See, that woman touched Jesus' coat. She was healed. I wonder what you could receive if you stayed hungry today. I don't know if, like me, that you get hungry a lot. I get hungry a lot. And when I get hungry, you know, like anything looks good, but you like long for, you know, something you've had before, something that satisfied you before, and you love it, and it's that moment you love that food. I know, I can see right now through this camera, though even I'm recording this on a day earlier, I can see you licking your lips thinking about that favorite meal of yours. I wonder if when your parents say we're going to have your favorite meal, your favorite takeaway, whatever it is, your level of expectation for the meal goes up. I wonder what could happen every Friday if you came as hungry for the things of God, to encounter God. See, Bartimaeus, he'd heard about Jesus. He'd heard what Jesus could do. And boom, he's shouting, and he's going crazy. He's going crazy, and he has some faith. He has some faith. And so he's hungry. He's hungry for what God can do. So the rest of the story is that they're telling him to shut up, but he shouts even louder. And then Jesus goes to him, heals him in that moment. And it's an incredible miracle, an incredible encounter with God. I could have picked loads of encounters with Jesus. I could have done it. But I wanted to show you this. Why? Because I think we, as part of encountering God and part of this month, we got to stay hungry. And so, like, you don't just eat one meal a week. You don't just eat one meal a week. You eat multiple meals a day. If you're like me, it's probably 6 or 7 meals a day. But you eat multiple meals a day. Why? Because you've got to feed yourself. Stay hungry for the things of God. Don't just leave it up to once a week. No, be in youth, be in church, be in multiple services in church here in Chesterfield. Go to multiple services, but get in your word, pray, worship on your own, put your headphones in, put Hillsong on, whatever it may be, do it. Stay hungry, stay hungry. Why? Because an encounter can change something. Turn up on a Friday, turn up on a Sunday, expectant for what God's going to do. Turn up in worship and don't think, oh, this is great, Christian karaoke, we get to follow some words on a screen. No, really encounter God, really sing to him. Be like blind Bartimaeus and decide, I'm going to cry out to God like never before. Let's be a generation that really, truly knows how to encounter everything that Jesus has got for us. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to spend some time in your Connect and you're going to look around this subject of encounter. You're going to take a look at this story of blind Bartimaeus. You're going to talk about what spoke to you most. You're going to talk about the things that you need to do. A decision today that you're going to make today that I'm going to do this on a regular. I'm making that decision today. It's the choice I'm making that I'm going to do this because that is what's going to help me encounter everything that Jesus has for me. Because we will become a generation that encounters the power of God. Don't stay in the normal, don't stay in the natural, but let's get hungry and let's be a people that will encounter more of Jesus like never before. Have a great rest of the Connect group, and I'll see you soon.